Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Daya Koro More Toma bina ke dayalu jagata sansare Toma bina ke dayalu jagata sansare Toma bina dayalu Patita pavana hetu Tava avatara Mosama patita Prabhu na paibe ara Ha Prabhu Nityananda Premananda Sukhi Ha Prabhu Nityananda Premananda Sukhi Kripa Balo Kanakaro Ami bodo dukhi Kripa balo kanakaro Ami bodo dukhi Daya koro Sitapati Advaita Gosai Tava kripa pale pai Chaitanya nitai Tava kripa pai Swarup sanatana Rupa Raguna Sarup Sanatana Rupa Raguna Bhata Yuga Shri Jivaha Prabhu Lokana Bhata Yuga Shri Jivaha Prabhu Lokana Daya Koro Shri Acharya Prabhu Srinivas Prabhu Srinivas Ramachandra Sangamage Narottama Dasa Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Daya Karo More Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Daya Karo More Toma Bina Ke Dayalu Jagata Sansare Tama Bina Aha Prabhu Nityananda Premananda Sukhi Aha Prabhu Nityananda Premananda Sukhi Kripa Balokana Karo Ami bada dukhi Kripa balokana karo Ami bada dukhi Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Nitai Gaura Haribol Haribol Nitai Gaura Haribol Haribol Nitai Gaura Haribol Jayom Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajacharya Shtota Satyashishmat Dani Goswami's Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Grantaraj Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna devotees, we're reading from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter 24, entitled Explanations of the Atmarama verse. And we will continue from text 276 and read together 277. Kampa Pula Kashru Haila Krishna Namagana Urdva Bahu Nritya Kare Vastra Udana. Translation: When the hunter chanted the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra before his spiritual master, his body trembled and tears welled up in his eyes. Filled with ecstatic love, he raised his hands and began to dance, waving his garments up and down. And then text 277. Dikya Vyadera Prema Parvata Mahamuni. Dikya Vyadera Prema Parvata Mahamuni. Naradere kahe tumi haus parshamani. Naradere kahe tumi haus parshamani. Dikya Vyadera Prema Parvata Mahamuni. Naradere kahe tumi haus parshamani. Dikya Vyadera Prema Parvata Mahamuni.
Naradere kahe tumi haus parshamani.
Naradere kahe tumi haus parshamani.
Dikya Vyadera Prema Parvata Mahamuni.
Dikya Vyadera Prema Parvata Mahamuni.
Naradere kahe tumi haus parshamani.
Naradere kahe tumi haus parshamani.
Dikya Vyadera Prema Parvata Mahamuni.
Dikya Vyadera Prema Parvata Mahamuni.
Naradere kahe tumi haus parshamani.
Naradere kahe tumi haus parshamani. Vaishnavis?
Dikya Vyadera Prema Parvata Mahamuni.
Dikya Vyadera Prema Parvata Mahamuni.
Naradere kahe tumi haus parshamani.
Naradera kahe tumi haus parshamani.
Dikya Vyadera Prema Parvata Mahamuni.
Dikya Vyadera Prema Parvata Mahamuni.
Naradere kahe tumi haus parshamani. Naradere kahe tumi haus parshamani.
Okay, thank you very much. So, word by word translation. Dikya, seeing. Vyadhira, of the hunter. Prema, the ecstatic love. Parvata Mahamuni, the great sage Parvata Muni. Naradere Kahe spoke to Narada Muni. Tumi House Parshamani, you are certainly a touchstone. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. When Parvata Muni saw the ecstatic loving symptoms of the hunter, he told Narada, certainly, you are a touchstone. Purport. When a touchstone touches iron, it turns the iron to gold. Parvata Muni called Narada Muni a touchstone because by his touch the hunter, who was the lowest among men, became an elevated and perfect Vaishnava. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur said that the position of a Vaishnava can be tested by seeing how good a touchstone he is. That is, by seeing how many Vaishnavas he has made during his life. A Vaishnava should be a touchstone so that he can convert others to Vaishnavism by his preaching, even though people may be fallen like the hunter. There are many so-called advanced devotees who sit in a secluded place for their personal benefit. They do not go out to preach and convert others into Vaishnavas, and therefore they certainly cannot be called Sparshamani, advanced devotees. Kanishtadhikari devotees cannot turn others into Vaishnavas, but a Madhyamadhikari Vaishnava can do so by preaching. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu advised his followers to increase the numbers of Vaishnavas. Yarideke tarekaha Krishna upadesh amara gyaya guru hanya tara idesh. This is from CC Madhya 7:128. It is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's wish that everyone should become a Vaishnava and Guru. Following the instructions of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his disciplic succession, one can become a spiritual master, for the process is very easy. One can go everywhere and anywhere to preach the instructions of Krishna. The Bhagavad Gita is Krishna's instructions. Therefore, the duty of every Vaishnava is to travel and preach the Bhagavad Gita either in this country or a foreign country. This is the test of Sparshamani, following the footsteps of Narada Muni. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandehang Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalang Shri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitantam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitangscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute. Tapta Kanjana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Shivaram Swami Niti Namine. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Once again the verse. Narada Muni then asked the hunter, "My dear Vaishnava, do you..." Oh no, that's the next. When Parvata Muni saw the ecstatic loving symptoms of the hunter, he told Narada, "Certainly, you are a touchstone." So we're still here in this story of the hunter. For those of you who have not been here last week, quite a few. For a long time, we've been hearing the explanations of the Atmaram verse, and then here the story is told of how Narada Muni converted a hunter who was half killing animals into a devotee, highlighting this powerful principle of how a devotee, a Vaishnava, can even create bhakti in somebody that is very, very cruel by nature or very, very averse to devotional service. And that's exactly what Parvata Muni is pointing out here in this verse, the two verses that we read. First of all, so now this hunter, he had already become a devotee, and because of this he has become quite famous amongst all the villagers where he's living. And then one time Narada Muni wants to show Parvata Muni, the great sage, this hunter and how he had such a change of heart. And so they went to see the hut of this now great sage, and they were received very nicely. We read that last week, how this previous hunter, he then received them very nicely, and he washed their feet with great devotion, drank the water that had washed the feet, sprinkled it on the head of himself and his wife. And then, how it is explained here, when he was chanting the Hare Krishna mantra before his spiritual master, his body trembled and tears welled up in his eyes. So basically, he already experienced very ecstatic symptoms of love for Krishna just by being with his spiritual master and feeling the mercy that he got through drinking also the foot water, the water that had washed Narada Muni's feet. And so when Parvata Muni observes this scene, he's very much astonished. How can it be? He had heard about this hunter before, I assume, that he is a very cruel personality, and now he had become such a great Vaishnava. And his only conclusion possible is, this is all because of you, Narada Muni. You turned this person upside down, you made him from a very, very violent into a very, very peaceful, tranquil, even more than that, a very devoted person. And so this is the topic of this verse, and I wanted to speak a little bit about that because, of course, we all had this experience of being touched by a touchstone. It is, Prabhupada explains in the purport, the touchstone is that which transforms iron into gold. It's a very special stone. Actually we can understand that the most powerful touchstone for this age and basically for all times is the Hare Krishna mantra. There's this beautiful story of Sanatana Goswami. I'm sure you've heard it before, so I will not go into it so much, but there was this one person who came who had heard from Shiva that Sanatana Goswami has a touchstone that can turn iron into gold and can make him very, very wealthy. And so he went there to get this touchstone, but then this touchstone was just laying in a heap of garbage. So this person asked Sanatana Goswami to obtain it, and he said, yeah, sure, you can find it there in the heap of garbage, just take it. And he took it and left, but then started thinking, like, if this touchstone is so special and so powerful, then why is it laying in the heap of garbage? Must mean actually he must have something more, even better than a touchstone. Otherwise, why would he keep it there? And so after some deliberation, he goes back and asks, what is actually this greatest wealth that you possess if it's not this touchstone? And Sanatana Goswami then says, you really want to know? First of all, you have to let go of the touchstone. You have to drown it in the river. You have to give up these attachments that you have to becoming rich and wealthy in this world. And in this way, you can then really become wealthy in the heart. And so that's what this person does. He gives up the touchstone and receives from Sanatana Goswami the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And then chants and attains the greatest bliss possible in all three worlds from this Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And of course, in our lives, we're all sitting here because of one person, ultimately. It's because Srila Prabhupada came to the West and shared this touchstone of the holy name with all of us. And that was what Srila Prabhupada also pointed out. You know, us coming from very low backgrounds, there was no chance that, speaking for myself at least, I would ever, dedicate my life to Krishna in the way that I'm doing now. Like, I didn't plan that. And I told that to my spiritual master once. It's quite amazing that I'm here, and just giving my life to Krishna. I never thought that I would do such a thing. And still, I think many of my previous friends and people, they're still like, where are you? What are you doing? Like, you're really gonna do this for a long time? I thought, they thought maybe it's some phase, but still, I'm here by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. And in this way, there's one beautiful story of how once Tamal Krishna Maharaj, he was in, I think at that time he was in Juhu, but not 100% sure, so somewhere in India, and he had to undergo a surgery. And he went to the hospital, and he got anesthesia, so they told him to count down from 10 to 0, and then he would be gone. And he was meditating on Radha Ras Bihari's arati and was very blissfully absorbed, and it came to 7, he was already gone, knocked out. But then he says he had a very beautiful dream. In this dream, Srila Prabhupada was called in front of the previous acharyas, and they were all sitting there, and Prabhupada stood there, and they asked him, so what can you report from your preaching in this material world? It must be really difficult. And Prabhupada says, well, yeah, I studied the people of this material world, of this planet Earth, and indeed, they're coming from very difficult backgrounds. They're having so many difficult attachments that stop them from practicing any kind of austerity, really. But one thing they can do, and that's really astonishing to me, is that they just somehow take shelter at my feet. I don't also know why, he's very humble, like, why me? But somehow or other, they really taking me very serious and follow my every instruction. And then Tamal Krishna Maharaj, after the surgery, he was brought into the other room, and Srila Prabhupada was there. Actually, he came all the way. He drove into town through rush hour because he wanted to stop the operation. He was saying, actually, you shouldn't have done it. In India, this kind of thing, you should do it in the West. Anyway, it was already too late. You were already there, so I just waited here. And then Tamal Krishna Maharaj retold him this dream he had, and Prabhupada listened very intently, and he just commented, actually, this is so. That, there's nothing else. At other places, right? He was also asked by other disciples, I don't know how I could, ever come to Krishna consciousness, how I got so fortunate. And then Prabhupada said, I created that good fortune. And that's the power of the pure devotee. Even though we find ourselves very few good qualities, or piety, or so much attraction to Krishna, but he can, by his mercy, create that good fortune in our heart. And that's also what Prabhupada answered. If other people asked him, right, okay, you're a Swami, you're some big yogi, so can you show us a miracle? And then Prabhupada said, well, and he pointed all his disciples, look at these people. I mean, they're Westerners coming from a very different background, but now they're also blissed out chanting Hare Krishna. I mean, isn't that a big miracle? And especially the Indian reporters, they could appreciate, For Indians, it's always very amazing, isn't it, to see. Just the other day, we were at the lake having Harinam, and then Shiva came by. Not the demigod Shiva, but some person named Shiva. And he was from India, from Hyderabad, in fact, and he was just here for some time. And he was thinking, it would be nice to go to a temple, Krishna temple, preferably, but, whatever. And then he was walking at the lake, and as he was thinking like that, he saw the devotees having Harinam, and he was like struck, and he sat down and listened a little bit, watched, and he called his wife, who is actually an ISKCON devotee, ardent devotee of Krishna, and showed her the Harinam, and she started crying, She was just so touched. Wow, look, these Westerners, they all here chanting Hare Krishna. Isn't it amazing, how Krishna works? And then afterwards he came to the temple and we spoke a little, and it was very beautiful to, just see how many Indians have such an appreciation for what Srila Prabhupada did. Yesterday we celebrated, or at least we remembered the what was it, 59th year of Prabhupada founding ISKCON. 1966 on the 19th July, that must have been. He established this ISKCON movement, and from there it just spread all around the world and made us devotees and gave so many people the chance to come in contact with Krishna consciousness. And so Indians, they can especially appreciate that, like maybe Abhiram Prabhu from the US, Prabhupada disciple. Actually, he was in Hungary. He's an amazing devotee. One time, he's full of very wonderful stories of Srila Prabhupada. He's a very, very good storyteller. And actually, he was on Namra's podcast also. If you haven't seen it, you gotta see it. It was I think just yesterday or so, they dropped a new. Actually, they wanted to have one podcast with him, but he was so ecstatic that they said they would just do another one right after. Like, they stopped the live recording, but then went on to make another one that is released today or yesterday or sometime. Please watch these. They're very, very nectarian. You really feel you're there with Prabhupada. You get to hear so much nectar of the personality of Srila Prabhupada. So anyway, he was pointing out how nowadays he's in the Vanaprastha stage, so he's preaching in India. Living very simply, actually. It's very amazing. He's staying in Vrindavan mainly, and then goes to preach in the villages in North India. And he once related how he was in this village, and there were many, many Ramanandi devotees. So Ramananda Sampradaya, I think it's some branch of the Sri Sampradaya. So they're coming from the south. They're very, very strict Brahmins. They're following all the preludes to be Brahminical, and they also, most of them are Naishtik brahmacharis, like those that have families. Even they just have sex for procreation. Otherwise, they would never even touch a woman, and they're very, very strict of how they practice devotional service. But when Abhiram Prabhu came there, he was speaking a little bit, and these people, they were not even so much interested in the philosophy, but they were just amazed of seeing a white person, in this age, coming from the West, having had everything. He's coming from a quite wealthy background also, and had big business and everything, renounced all that, and now he's preaching in his villages in Rajasthan. So they just appreciated so much that he was there. And of course, Abhiram Prabhu just said, this is the mercy of my spiritual master, it's because of Srila Prabhupada. And they were just stunned, and they were saying, okay, we can uphold Dharma a little bit, we stick to the Brahminical principles and have given that on over tradition, over the years, over the centuries even. But Srila Prabhupada, he didn't just uphold the Dharma, he actually spread the Dharma and made people that have no Brahminical qualification, that cannot, chant mantras, that cannot even speak Sanskrit, this and that, he is made then into pure devotees of the Lord. Just give their life to Krishna with a devotion that even we cannot actually have. So like that, Abhiram Prabhu pointed out that the special thing is what we have, what Prabhupada gave us, is this Maha Mantra, the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra that he gave to us. coming straight from Mahaprabhu's lips down through Guru Parampara, over him to us. And so Prabhupada points out in the purport that this is the actual duty of every devotee. He says here, further down, that one can go everywhere and anywhere to preach the instructions of Krishna. The Bhagavad Gita is the instructions of Krishna. Therefore, the duty of every Vaishnava is to travel and preach the Bhagavad Gita either in this country, in his country, or a foreign country. So it's the duty of every Vaishnava to travel and preach. It's quite strong words that Prabhupada uses. But I think it's very much in line with what we see is the mood of Mahaprabhu, and then also is the mood of the previous acharyas, is the mood in Srimad Bhagavatam that we see. Like Narada Muni, actually also he was, right, he went off into the forest as a little child to look for God. And he got the mantra, he chanted the mantra. Narayan even appeared to him. He had darshan of the Lord. But then he said, actually, unfortunately, this is the last time you will see him in this lifetime. Because still, you're a little bit too comfortable with just being in the forest and sitting here and, doing your own bhajan. And Narada Muni understood from that, actually, the mercy that I need to really attain Krishna is to travel and preach. And so that's what he did afterwards. He was going and sharing Krishna consciousness anywhere and everywhere. And so even for us as devotees, we have to be quite aware and even cautious not to become comfortable in Krishna consciousness, right? It's a big topic. And most of us, living in the temple, for example, we have a very nice situation. Prasadam is coming on time every day, mostly on time every day, and we can just do some service and be happy in Krishna consciousness. But we have to always have in our mind that what Prabhupada wants from us. We know yasya prasadat bhagavad prasado, yasya aprasada nagati kutopi. To please the spiritual master is our goal, because only then can we actually achieve Krishna. And so that includes pleasing Srila Prabhupada. So Prabhupada wants us to preach. He wants us to spread Krishna consciousness anywhere and everywhere with everybody. Yarideka tarikaha Krishna upadesh amara gyanhai taridesh. The other day on book distribution we met some Bengalis. I quoted this verse and they were also very happy. Oh, amazing. You speak Bengali. That's the only verse I know. But anyway, just to get out there and expose ourselves to this material world is very, very healthy. And there's so many ways of preaching, of course. I don't say everybody has to go on book distribution, although I think it's really helpful. But just to go out of the comfort zone and try to share Krishna consciousness. And yesterday I was speaking with Tara Prabhu about this principle also. Tara Prabhu, he's a very, very exalted Vaishnava, and he just was relating a little bit the story of his book distribution, how he's an experienced book distributor. I don't want to say an old book distributor, an experienced book distributor. And the other day he was going out again to distribute books, and then he said, I was distributing some books, and I didn't come home before 10 o'clock. I was only back at 10 o'clock at the temple. He just got, sucked in the bliss of book distribution. So I think this is what we can all experience, that when we make this step to, go to the front line in that sense, where we are, helpless very much. Lakshman Prabhu also knows, he's coming to Switzerland here for the first time distributing books, and you don't know the people, you don't know the place, and it's like, but he was not mental, he just went for it. And you can just tell, it's such a bliss that comes, and naturally Krishna will inspire you what you should do, how you should speak with the people, and even if it's not successful from an external point of view, if not so many books go out, or you will always meet that one person, at least one, that it was worth it for. Right, Makar? You can also say that. Makar also, he's got the taste. It's going up and down a little bit, But mainly he's just in bliss. Yesterday also we went out, Sankirtan Saturday, where some of us going out, and the first person he spoke to immediately took a Bhagavad Gita, and I could see, it was just. So it's so nice, it's so enlivening to preach Krishna consciousness, share Krishna consciousness with others. Shri Shri Jagannapadev Subhadra Devi Ki Jai. Shri Shri Gauranitai Ki Jai. And there will never be any loss in doing that, in trying to extend ourselves to others, to share Krishna consciousness, because what we find is we don't help only the people on the street, we mostly help ourselves. We have to be engaged in Krishna service somehow or other. And we try to do that, and in the temple there is also many opportunities. But still, if there is not this little pinch or this little uncomfort, then the mind will trick us, isn't it? Maybe you've experienced that. Okay, yeah, we'll do that service, but first let me lay down, let me do this. Maybe just check Facebook, this and that. And then 1 hour has gone by, what's happened. But if you're engaged in preaching, then constantly you have to take shelter. Constantly you're thinking, oh, what can I say to the next person? Okay, that interaction was not great. What did I do wrong? What's in my heart that blocks me to connect to this person more deeply? How can I, explain to them what karma is? How can I explain what the basics of Krishna consciousness are? How can I speak to them in a way that they understand me, that I'm not just some alien, All these things, you have to go through that on the streets. You're forced to apply yourself to understand more deeply what is really Krishna consciousness. And this way it's a very positive push, a very positive distress that we take on ourselves, because we understand Krishna, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Srila Prabhupada, our Gurudevs, they're very pleased by this. And not only are they pleased, but that's how we actually get the mercy. And that's also what is pointed out here in this verse, or in the purport, Prabhupada, goes into that a little more, how there are many so-called advanced devotees who sit in a secluded place for their personal benefit. They do not go out to preach and convert others into Vaishnavas. And therefore, they certainly cannot be called Sparshamani. So he's very, very emphatic on this point, that Gaudiya Vaishnavas, our mood is less that of a Vajranandi, but is more that of a Goshtyanandi, somebody who is not just practicing devotional service for himself, but goes out to share it with others. And that's what Mahaprabhu says here when he says, okay, go every place, town and village, to spread this holy name and Krishna's instructions. And I was just telling Taraprabhu also that my spiritual master, he always quotes this verse, in other Gaudiya traditions, even Gaudiya Mat or other Vaishnavas also, they have sometimes a little different focus, they're saying, chant 64 rounds. Mahaprabhu will not accept anything if you don't chant 64 rounds before. But our focus is help others, and then you will help yourself. By doing that, by extending yourself, you will get the mercy necessary that you get qualified to chant properly. 16 rounds first of all, and then increasingly more and more. And that's very much emphasized also in this beautiful verse of Prabodhananda Saraswati Thakur in Chaitanya Chandramrita, where he says that Yata yata gaura padara vindeta bhaktim kritya punya rashihi tata tato tsarpati hritya kasmat radha padambocha shudambu rashihi. The exact translation is that one who is extremely fortunate may get the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. As much as one can devote his full attention to the lotus feet of Mahaprabhu or his instructions, to that extent he will be able to taste the nectarine service of the lotus feet of Srimati Radharani in Vrindavan. The more one engages in service of Sri Chaitanya, the more one finds oneself in Vrindavan, tasting the nectar of the service of Sri Radha. So, other sampradayas sometimes, or the devotees, they put the emphasis, okay, we just meditate on Radha Lila, Radha Dasya, how can we become servants of Radha Rani, Radha Kund Bhav, we have to just absorb in Radha Kund and pray to Radha Rani and absorb in Ashtakalya Lila of Krishna and understand, these things. And that's there, but at the same time, what Srila Prabhupada always focused on, how will we attain our Swarup, our spiritual identity? It is not necessarily by our own endeavor so much, of course not. In the end, it's by the mercy. So it's a question of how do we get this mercy to get there? And here it is said, by getting the mercy of Mahaprabhu, you will get the mercy of Radharani. And that's what we're trying to do. The other day also, then Tara Prabhu was sharing the story of Radhakund Mataji. He could tell it more beautifully than me. And I told it to the book distributors yesterday, but I will share it again, of how she's a book distributor, long-standing book distributor, Srila Prabhupada disciple, right? She is. So for the past 40, 50 years, she's been distributing books on a regular basis. And even now, she's retired to Vrindavan, she's been distributing books there, which is also interesting. But then one day, she was going on parikram, she went to Radhakund. And she met this very effulgent Babaji, who asked her, "Do you want to get the mercy of Radharani?" And of course, everybody would say, "Yes, of course, yeah." So she did, she said, "Yes." And this Babaji said, "Well, that's okay, I will give you a mantra. You come back, I will give you a mantra, and you just repeat this mantra, pray, meditate on Radharani, and you will get her mercy." So she did that. She went back to Radhakund more frequently, more regularly to see that Babaji. Because of that, she didn't distribute books anymore. So shortly after that, she had a beautiful dream. And in that dream, Srila Prabhupada was there. He had a very stern look on his face. He was looking at her like. And then he took her, and they went to Radhakund. And they went all the way to the bottom of Radhakund, deep, deep down, to the essence of what Radhakund is. And what was there? A big, big table, many of Srila Prabhupada's books. And so Srila Prabhupada left her there, he went there, he took the books. And then she could see there were all these conditioned souls, and they were crying out for the books. They wanted that book so eagerly, so desperately. They were just reaching out, "Please, give me a book also." And Prabhupada was distributing as much as he could. And Radha Kunmaji was just, in shock, like standing there watching this scene in the dream. And then Prabhupada said, "Hey, you gonna help me or what?" And so she went and started distributing books. So it's a very, very beautiful dream. She woke up after that and she understood, okay, maybe I should refocus again. Okay, maybe it's not yet the time to just fully absorb in Radharani like that. But let's get the mercy of Radharani by giving out the mercy of her to others. So in this way, we might feel, okay, we're not qualified to preach. Who are we to preach? Prabhupada also says here that Kanishta Adhikari devotees cannot turn others into Vaishnavas, but the Madhyam Adhikari Vaishnava can do so by preaching. And, speaking for myself, certainly I'm a Kanishta Adhikari, so what is the use even of me going out? How many people can I inspire? But Prabhupada says, we must not be disappointed that no one is hearing Krishna consciousness. We just want to get that certificate from Krishna, this man has done something for me. Not popularity. If a pack of asses says, "You're good," what is that? We have to please Krishna's senses with purified senses. Right? So even if nobody wants to hear, if nobody's appreciating us, if we're not immediately making devotees, we should still remain very confident that this is the best thing that we can do. And I like this saying, there's a Christian saying actually, which says that God does not call on the qualified to come, but rather He qualifies the called, right? So God, He calls out, "Please come, give your life to me, just surrender unto me, make me the only shelter of your life, and do not worry about anything else." And then He works on us, once we give ourselves to Him, once we open up, then He can work on us. How can He otherwise work on us if we're just, doing our own thing and trying to ourselves become, somebody? Then He can qualify us. And I feel like that, over the past 8 years or something that I've been practicing Krishna consciousness, that I've also gone out on book distribution, so many things have changed internally, where I can see that really Krishna is giving me so much mercy, and all the association I've got from all these beautiful devotees that have given me so much. It's just a fact, nobody can deny that Krishna will give you what you need in order to proceed. And it might take some time, that's there. But he will provide us with all the qualifications that we need for the time, the place, and circumstance. And so we don't have to think like, okay, I have to become a pure devotee first, and then I will start preaching, because it might not happen exactly in the next few years. So better to have the opposite approach, do what we can do now, and share Krishna consciousness in a way that is suitable for us. And it can be very simple. The other day, Makar and me, we were walking back from the Harinam, and there was a couple driving by, a little older, like maybe 50 or so, and the lady, she just started chanting, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. She was not a devotee, obviously, but she was kind of, going through. But then she chanted, I could hear, even when we passed, she was still chanting Hare Krishna. Just by being out there, that's what I'm saying. Just by being out there, that's preaching. Just if people see us, the Hare Krishnas, they're still around, they're not just some mirage from the past. They're still there. The cookies are still amazing also. And they still chant, and like that can be preaching. Very, very simple. Just if we make this endeavor to go out of the comfort zone a little bit, show our face to the world. Don't be afraid that, I'm not pure, so I'm just hiding in the temple, or, I'm just doing my own bhajan. And I was also speaking about that with Tara Prabhu, that, it's just so inspiring for other devotees also, to see another devotee who imbibes that spirit of Sankirtan, of sharing Krishna with others, who's doing the mission, right? So not only speak about book distribution or Harinam, there's so many ways of sharing Krishna consciousness. Just the other day I met Akandadi Prabhu in Earlycon, after a long time, I must say. And Akandadi Prabhu is such a wonderful Vaishnava, and I'm so he's always inspiring me so much just to see him, because he's just thrilled, he's really enthusiastic, he's just carrying that spirit of Krishna consciousness, adventurous, and Krishna consciousness, it will change the world. And, we can do something right now to do that, and just always meditating on how to spread Krishna consciousness. He just came back from some consciousness meeting, he's involved with scientific preaching. They're having all these international conferences. And so he said, the last conference he went, there were like 8 devotees sharing, having like key speeches on consciousness, and many scientists being very open also to work together, to go a little bit into that. So it's amazing, and the point though is that he's carrying that Sankirtan spirit, then I was speaking a little bit about the situation and this and that, and he was just, just go traveling book distribution, go do it, best thing, like just after all these years. So he's a Prabhupada disciple, has been in the movement 60 years, no, not 60, maybe 50, and been a temple president, been there, done that, got the ticket, everything. But he's carrying that Sankirtan spirit of sharing Krishna consciousness, and I just feel it's so enlivening to be around these devotees. And of course, there's very exalted devotees who are very deep, and because they have gone deep in their bhajan, and that's also very wonderful. But even there, the spirit is one of sharing, more than focusing on one's own bhajan. And so I just wanted to have a little end on Prabhupada memory, another one, which also shows again that there is so many different ways of sharing Krishna consciousness, and that we have to be proactively looking for that also, meditating on it. Because once Prabhupada was on a morning walk with Bhavananda Prabhu and Gargamuni Prabhu, and Prabhupada asked, Bhavananda, do you know what your name means actually? And then Gargamuni said, yeah, it means one who is absorbed in the ecstasy of devotional service, right? Bhav. But then Prabhupada said, no, that's Bhav Ananda. But you're Bhavananda. So what's that? What is Bhava? Bhava means material world, right? Bhava, material existence. So and then so one who takes bliss in the material existence, and then Bhavananda Prabhu was like, Prabhupada, why you give? What's that kind of name? And he said, actually, I should have taken note then, because in fact this devotee he went through many things, and he did go a little bit sideways, also enjoying the material world. He's a very, very capable person. He did so much for the movement in the early years, and he's very good with designing, and like he's an artist really, and Prabhupada really appreciate him so much. Actually, once he said that to him, it is a fact that there's no one in our movement that is serving the feet of his spiritual master so nicely. I think something like this. Told him personally, so it's quite a compliment. So, but anyway, Prabhupada said no. It means one who takes endless enjoyment in this material world, because that is a devotee. A devotee takes endless enjoyment in this material world because it offers endless opportunities for preaching. So that's the meaning of Bhavananda. Bhavananda. So this material world is full of so many difficult things, but also because of this, there's so much opportunity to share Krishna consciousness. And that's why I think that's something we can take from this verse of how we can also become preachers, share Krishna consciousness, is by just taking the opportunities, see what we like to do, what we can do for Krishna, and then expose ourselves, go out of the comfort zone, and just do it. And Krishna, he will qualify us, even though we're maybe not qualified yet. Okay, that were a few thoughts of mine to this verse. Thank you very much. I think it's already over time, so we can stop here. Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada Sparshamani ki jai, Anantakoti Vaishnavrinda ki jai.
Siksastakam Prabhu ki jai. I will speak to